Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at a pattern, determining the figures that we can see kind of what's the pattern, what's the growth, and from there, graphing and coming up with a table and etc. So this question is pulling from CPM's course 3, so CC3, and this is the chapter 5 closure. Okay, specifically number 5-64. So it says examine the tile pattern at the right, then complete parts A through C. Okay, so we only see A here, but I've got C here. I'll just pull it up so you see it. Make some room. Okay, so A through C is what we're looking at. So there's A, B, and then C. Okay, so A, first of all, it wants us to draw figures 1 and 5. So I've got to look at my growth here. If I consider this pattern, there's a couple pieces to this. I look at it this way. I've got this tail here. This tail has 3, and then the next figure has 3 blocks and 3 blocks. So that's not growing at all. That's staying the same. Then I look at the other piece of it, and the other piece of it, this is a 2x2, and then all of a sudden it becomes a 3x3, and then a 4x4, right? So that's growing as a length and width. So my figure 1, if I'm going to draw my figure 1, I can tell you it's still going to have those 3 blocks as the tail, right? And then if this is a 2x2, this is a 3x3, this is a 4x4, and each of the figures really are their numbers. The number 2, it's a figure 2 is a 2x2, figure 3 is a 3x3, figure 4 is a 4x4. So that would tell me that figure 1 would be a 1x1, right? So it's really just going to be a single block on that tail. So there's figure 1. And then figure 5, if I'm drawing figure 5, be a little bit more because, again, we have this tail of 3 blocks because that's what each of them have. But then it's going to be a 5x5. So let's see if I can draw this somewhat decent. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So complete that. So there's 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it's going to be a 5x5. So then I got to go 5 columns. Okay. So there we have it. It's a 5x5. So there's figure 5. All right. So it wants us to make an X and Y table from the pattern. So I have figure 1 would be have 4. Figure 2, because if I count my blocks, right? Because X is what? X represents the figure number. Maybe I'll label that so we know. Figure number. And Y represents the number of tiles or blocks. Number of tiles is Y. So the first figure has 4. The second figure, let's count, that's 7. The third figure has, let's see, that's 9 plus 3 is 12. The fourth figure has 3, so that's 16. 4x4 is 16 plus 3 is 19. Figure 5 would be a 5x5, which is 25 plus 3, which is 28. Okay. So if I look at my pattern, I can see that this is not growing linearly, right? So this goes up by 3, this goes up then by 5, that goes up by 7, that goes up by 9. It's definitely not growing at a constant rate. So I know right away when I graph this, I shouldn't see a line because it's not growing at a constant rate. So I make a graph. It says include points for figures 0 through 5. Well, figure 0, what would figure 0 look like? Maybe I needed to draw. I didn't draw figure 0, but I'm going to put it in. I'll put it in over here. Figure 0. If I'm going to think about what figure 0 looks like, it looks like it's going to have 3, because every one of them has 3 tiles, but that's a 1x1, 2x2, right? So figure 0 is just going to have 0 there. So this figure 0 is going to have 3 tiles. All right, so it's at 0 is 3, so that would be figure 0. We'll see if I have to do 6. I don't think I have to do 6, so that's enough on that. So now let's graph what this looks like. So when we're graphing this, I don't need at this point, I don't need negatives because I'm not drawing any negatives. I don't have any negative x values or y values, so I'm only going to use, just so I can have some. Let me move this out of the way so we can see where I'm at. So I'm gonna put my y axis right here. I'm gonna put my x axis. I want to go low with it, right there. Okay. And it looks like I'm going to need to go, let's see. So this is my x-axis. This is my y-axis. I'm going to go 0. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's all I'm going to use, right? So at 0, I'm at 3. 1, 2, 3. So at 0, I'm at 3. At 1, I'm at 4. So that's 3. That's 4. At 3, I'm at 12. So that's, excuse me, at 2, I'm at 7. I forgot that one. 2 is at 7. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. And then at 3, I'm at 12. So that's 7. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? So now I'm at 12 there. At 4, I'm at 19. So 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh, I'm just off of that right there at 19. So that would be 419. I won't be able to draw figure 5 unless I change my scale. So I'm going to let that be on this one so we can just see this pattern. Because you can see it's not a line, right? If I try to connect my dots here, there's my first dot. There's no way to connect the dots with a line. What we really have here is this parabolic curve, right? It's moving in more of a parabola look. And here's the reason why. I want to show this too, because I don't think it asks for the rule. It doesn't, but I'm gonna give you the rule based on, so that way you kind of can see why that graph is more of a parabola, not a line. If you think about our shapes, and I said, right, we noticed that every time there was a 3, but then each of these squares were the figure number times the figure number. That's how many squares are in there, right? 4 times 4, there's 16 in there. 5 times size, there's 16, 15, 25 in there. So figure X, if I were to ask you what figure X was, figure X, again, would have 1, 2, 3 of those. And then this part here, this square, would be X by X. It would have the dimensions X by X. So my rule for this question, if I were to write a rule, would be y equals 3 plus x squared, x times x. So because it always has 3, and then you're always adding to it whatever the square is, the dimensions of the square being multiplied. In this case, x times x be x squared. So that would be the rule. So you can also put it in the table and say if I have x, then my number of tiles would be this x squared plus 3, or 3 plus x squared. Either way you want to write it. All right, there we go.